Today I'm going to talk about family names and given names. Especially in academic writing, you need to know the difference between them so that you know which name to write down when you're citing someone when you quote or paraphrase. So to begin with, my name is Neil Whitman. My first name is Neil, and that's also my given name. It's the name that my parents gave me. And then my last name is Whitman. It's also my family name. But now let's think about, in this class with a lot of people from places like China and Korea, we can't just talk about first and last names like that. So a name like Liang Xiaofei, well, the first name is Liang, but that's the family name. And the given name is the last name, Xiaofei. So, in this class, to reduce confusion, I'm not going to talk about a first name or a last name. Instead, I'll talk about a given name and a family name. So, in academic writing, we refer to authors by their family names. So, for example, you might cite something as Whitman 2004 or Liang 2011, but not Neil 2004 or Xiaofei 2011. No, not 20,000. 2011. Yeah. And if you do this, if you say like Neil 2004, but then someone goes to the bibliography and they look for this source and they see Whitman, they might not realize that it's, this source in the bibliography is the same that you cited up here in section 2. Okay, so in a bibliographic entry, how do you know which name is the family name? So let's say you have several sources in your annotated bibliography, for example, and you see some names for the authors. Well, which name is the family name? Well, if it's in some cases it's really easy if they put the given name just as a single initial. So, for example, here, N, the initial letter of Neil, or X, the initial name of Xiaofei, and again here, N or X. So we don't put family names as initials unless, well, we might put all names as the initials, but when it's just one name spelled out and one initial, then the name that's spelled out, that's the family name. Also notice that we have a clue here, the comma. If there's a comma between a name and an initial or another name, then that name is the family name. And also notice that in English journals or in articles written in English, the Asian names, like this one, are usually written out in the typical English order. So the family name is written as the last name, and the given name is written first. So those are the easy cases, if you have an initial instead of a given name. But if they spell out the given name, well, then it's a little bit more difficult to identify it. So, if the given name is written out fully, look to see if there is a comma. If there is not a comma, then the second name is the family name. Okay. If there is a comma, Whitman, comma, Neil, or Liang, comma, Xiaofei, then that means they're putting the family name first. Now, one thing that makes things interesting is that in English, there are some names that can be either family names or given names. For example, here is Anderson Cooper. Maybe you've seen this person. He's a TV journalist on some cable TV channels. I find this guy's name interesting because my great-grandfather's name is Cooper Anderson. So, look for the commas, and you can still identify the family name. So Anderson Cooper, no comma. So Cooper is the family name here. Cooper, comma, Anderson. Here's a comma. So Cooper is the family name. So Anderson Cooper, or Cooper, comma, Anderson, they're talking about this guy here. Cooper Anderson, no comma. This is the family name. Anderson, comma, Cooper. Here's a comma. This is the family name. So these are talking about my great-grandfather, or actually one of my 8 great-grandfathers. Okay, now papers with multiple authors can be even more confusing here. So let's suppose that I wrote a paper with my fictional friend Xiaofei Liang and famous TV journalist Anderson Cooper, and suppose that the title or the authors were written like this: Neil Whitman, comma, Xiaofei Liang, and Anderson Cooper. Well, the commas here are separating the author's name. So I'm the first author, of course, then the comma, second author, comma, and third author. But each author, there's no comma between the names, so we know that the second one is the family name. Family name. Family name. On the other hand, this is terrible. Whitman, comma, Neil, comma, Liang, comma, Xiaofei, and Cooper, comma, Anderson. So here we have commas separating the authors, and also commas separating the family names from the given names. And this is just very confusing, except for the last author and the first author. But if you have a paper with 10 authors or something in there, if you don't count right, if you get the count wrong, you'll wind up saying something here in the middle and think there's an author named Liang Neil. So be very, very careful. In fact, I sometimes just put boxes around the author's names boxes around the author's names in a situation like this. Okay, what about middle names? So here's a picture of someone named H. Ross Perot. It's a French name, that's why we don't pronounce the T. So H. Ross Perot is an American businessman. He ran for president in 1992. The H stands for Henry, but he goes by Ross. And sometimes people just call him Ross Perot. We don't always see the H there. So a bit more information about middle names. Sometimes the middle name is just another given name. Sometimes, though, it's the mother's family name or the family name of someone else that the parents wanted to remember. That's probably what happens with Ross Perot. Ross is a typical family name. And in other situations, sons who have the same full name as their father will sometimes go by their middle name to reduce confusion. Okay? And some people just don't like their other given name, so they go by their middle name. And in fun trivia, 3 United States presidents went by their middle name. And by the way, when I say go by or went by, that means that's what people call them. So Calvin Coolidge, he was president in the 1920s. Not everybody knows his first name was John. Woodrow Wilson, he was president during World War I when the United States was involved in it. And most people think his first name is Woodrow, but really it's Thomas. And Grover Cleveland, he was actually president twice, separated by another president. But in any case, Grover is his middle name, not his first name. So how do middle names look in bibliographic entries? Well, if they're just listing given names as initials, or then it's easy. So for example, Stephen Grover Cleveland, well, SG, there's the first, there's the middle, there's the family name. Other times they might just give the initial, Coolidge, comma, J. Calvin. Sometimes they don't even do anything with the first name at all. They just say, for example, Wilson, comma, Woodrow. But again, the commas can tell you that these names here are the family names. And lastly, a correction. I told you at the beginning that Neil is my first name, but it's not. It's actually my middle name. My first name is Philip, so my full name is Philip Neil Whitman. And there are some funny stories I could tell you about that, but not right now. This video is long enough, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in class.